We had a great session today on Reinvent Hollywood where we focused on the support structure, the film schools, the film festivals, the nonprofits, both on the funding side and the education side, both domestically here in the US and internationally. It is clear that in all segments, everyone's taking a much more systems-related approach to what is the film business. It used to be everybody was in their private silo. Now we see that they recognize that their success is contingent on the other stakeholders on the field.
What's great about what's going on right now is that it's getting broader by the day. You know, people are thinking in all sorts of new directions creatively. And then, of course, what comes along with that is what is going to be the constituency that's going to be interested in this, and how do you create a sustainable career based on that?
What does that mean about how we train people who are coming out into the world? And I think learning how to make a film is not going to be nearly enough. It's how are you, your own entity, your own enterprise out in the world, and what is the skill set that you need in order to do that well, and who do you need to help you?
You know, the reality is that I've been teaching marketing and distribution at Columbia for 28 years. And at the beginning, nobody understood that it was even necessary. Two things have changed. Now it's at the center of the curriculum. But the other thing that's changed is that, frankly, I find myself having to completely change my syllabus every single year now because the marketplace is changing so fast. Whereas I had used the same outline for 15 years, where I didn't have to change any of it.
We sort of modified this idea of DIY, and we now use DIYWO, do it yourself with others. And how can you be the person driving the course of your career and understanding the kinds of help you need, both, we call it hiring up and hiring down.
I hate the term DIY because I think that there's no way in the world you can do any of this yourself, strictly yourself. So, one of the things that we focus on at the school from day one is about putting a team around you that can make up for your own inadequacies, that it can amplify your voice, that can be people to bounce ideas off of. That sort of collaboration is key. It's a whole ecosystem that you have to understand in order to be successful.
Part of this connectivity that is happening through the digital change is people being much more aware that they're not just focused on their national cinema, and that to find that sustainable career, they have to connect in a broader way.
I think we have to retrain our own eyes and our own ears. One of the challenges for us has been how to deal with something like Nollywood. This incredibly rich, fertile body of work that's coming out of Nigeria, very popular, not just in Nigeria, but throughout much of the world, doesn't get shown in film festivals, largely for aesthetic reasons, I think, because it just doesn't fit what we're used to from film festivals, it doesn't fit our notions of quality. And I think that's partly on us to try to shift what that means as much as it is on the Nigerian filmmakers.
We need people who are looking at filmmaking from a different perspective. I think Cameron's exactly right that there's a commonly agreed upon grammar that exists within the art film universe that we're all used to living in. But there's a lot of stuff out there that maybe new forms of curation can help to bring other things, other types of filmmaking to light.
The role of curation of all of our organizations in sort of narrowing the focus for both audiences and film lovers, but also for the marketplace, is, I think, increasingly important. I think more than ever before, the importance of curation is to take all of the massive amount of choices and focus it down.
We can begin to think of curation as a form of creation and encourage artists to think of kind of curating a kind of a space where their own work makes sense. So in a way, carving out a space for themselves through their own curation, then I think we will be getting somewhere. I have no idea exactly how that's done, but it does seem to me that things have shifted. People are generating their own kind of creative environments through their own curation, and that artists have to respond to that, and I think institutions can help.
Since online Web 2.0 has very much been about social, about the gathering of community. How can these organizations harness that asset and turn it into a greater force? The promise, that comes, as we heard in the audience episode, with a engaged community that recognize they're not just funding work through crowdfunding, but they're determining what work gets made and what work gets seen.
People have to adjust their headspace before they can do anything else and understand that one of the big opportunities that's developed in the last 10 years is that suddenly we actually have a continuum of different kinds of filmmaking and media making that have different levels of sustainability. Used to be that there were only two models. There was, somehow pushing into the commercial marketplace in whatever fashion you could, or there was failure. There was like nothing in between. As long as American independents are making movies thinking that it's going to be a stepping stone into Hollywood, that's bad. That's not thinking outside the box.
We have to just always remain curious to whatever's new, whatever we haven't figured out yet, and recognize that we're going to have to constantly shift, evolve, and adjust, because institutions don't like to do that often, but that, I think, is the only way we can survive and the only way we can actually be useful to artists.
It's not all about making feature films or short films or documentaries. Those are conventions, and even the length of films are conventions. It's the time that you need to go to a theater, or it's dictated by advertising for television. So I think our organizations have a really important role in helping storytellers figuring out best ways to telling stories that are different, that are outside of kind of what's conventionally accepted.
Although you might start out doing just one thing and doing it very well, I think to survive over 20 or 30 or 40 years, you probably have to learn to do a lot of different things and to shift according to where there's an opportunity.
I think that there is an important role for all of us to play in pushing film as an art form, and in constantly reminding ourselves and the community that comes together around this work that there is an intrinsic value of film as an art form outside of its commercial success.
Through these 5 episodes, we've seen the change. We've seen how there are new freedoms, new opportunities to be had. But are there also new chains? Are there still barriers holding people back? On our 6th episode and our final, we'll be looking at the rules of the game, the laws that the entire community have to face, the dominance of a permissions-based culture, how one works with it in terms of IP law, fair use, securities. What are we actually free to do? What are we not? And how does it shape the result? It's the culture we have. We're going to look at how it got there. Episode 6, Reinvent Hollywood, will be the rules of the game, the law and other curses.